Hey guys, so is there a situation in today's world where you could achieve cash flow on a property, on an investment property, and still buy at today's interest rates at 7 or 8%? So there is a way, and it is called house hacking. And I want you guys to really change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change, right? So, what is house hacking? First of all, house hacking is a process of essentially renting out room by room in a property where you live in one unit. It could be in a multi-unit, and you can rent out other units, or you could buy a 4-bedroom house and live in one bedroom and rent out the other 3 bedrooms and maybe even the basement. So it's a way of really just dividing up the house to create cash flow and renting it either weekly, bi-monthly, or monthly. And typically it's month to month. Sometimes you see longer terms, but it's sort of like, think of it as like a midterm rental that you're setting up, because you're including furniture, you're including utilities, internet, whatever amenities that's attached to that property. The tenants or your guests, whoever's living with you, will have access to all of that. Now, you don't need, 4 different kitchens. You don't need 4 different refrigerators. You may want to get extra stuff, but, you don't necessarily need that. It's a common area, and it's viewed as a common area. Think of it as such as like a co-working space. This is like a co-living space. Essentially, you are living in the exact same house, and you're sharing some of the amenities. Amenities include your kitchen. Maybe you have a pool in the backyard, or a hot tub, or a deck, or rooftop deck, something like that. But it's renting out room by room, portioning it off, and you can create some serious cash flow. So here's the thing. There are a lot of financial benefits to this right now, because typically if you were to buy a multi-unit and you rent it on a long term, you're going to get the least amount of rent, in terms of, you'll have the most amount of stability, but you will get the least amount of rent. So Airbnb, there's more risk of being, vacant, but you could have massive upside. So this co-living really kind of just fills a gap here, where it's sort of like you're hedging your bets. You're charging almost short-term rates, and you're having stability by having leases in place, or agreements in place that kind of fills that gap, and people are liable to pay you for that, right? So it's a great way to build equity faster, especially in a market where interest rates are at 7 and 8%. It's a great way so that you can actually start cash flowing and really pay down your loan a lot quicker. Some house hacks and co-living spaces I've seen where they've actually converted additional rooms into bedrooms, and some of them even have 10 bedrooms or 12 bedrooms in a house. Make sure you definitely check your county requirements and codes, to make sure that you're not saturating a house or whatever in fire code and stuff like that. So but it's a great way to really create cash flow, especially in these high interest rates market, and you pay down equity faster. There are different types of properties that you could go after utilizing a co-living space. So you could do multifamily, you could do multi-units, which is a little more separated, or you could do a massive single family house with, like I said, 8 or 12 bedrooms. But that's more popular, I would say, with co-living spaces and house hacking. Typically they're like townhomes or single family homes, because with a multifamily you could actually utilize a different strategy, where you could hedge your bets too. So there's maximum flexibility. So typically, with house hacking, you have the maximum amount of flexibility, because people are living there for 1 week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, 1 month at a time. They might be travel nurses or people that are in town for corporate housing, and they're looking to save some money. Maybe they're in town for training or a conference or whatever. It's a great way that you could, bring people in. And it's sort of like a stepping stone to financial freedom, by allowing you to give a reduced cost to some people, so that when they come to town, they're saving money because they're getting a per diem for their property. So it's a great way that they save money, and then you make money at the same time. So again, and it's maximizing your cash flow. So as far as risks go, there are some risks, right? Because ideally, to manage those risks, you do want to do background checks. You do want to do an application check for someone that's going to be living with you in your house. make sure that, hey, they're not like, a murderer on the run or something like that. But, make sure you manage those risks, and you think about those and what those possibilities are. House hacking and co-living is not something I necessarily recommend, at least for me personally. For a family, like if you have young kids, and I don't recommend it. This is more so for if you're living by yourself or you don't have a property right now. Could be a great way to do it. Now, you don't necessarily have to live in the house, right? You don't have to live in the house to do a house hack or do a co-living space. So, it could be something that you buy, but because you want a cash flow, or because you're buying in a high growth market and you want a cash flow, this is a great way to do it, is just create a co-living house that you don't necessarily live there, but you come and you check and make sure everyone's happy and whatnot. The biggest thing too is that you're creating these amenities, you're creating these opportunities for people to live in, and they have amenities. So whether it's a coffee maker or creating a space that they can hang out, or having a hot tub, or having rooftop deck, like these are all things that would draw people in. It's similar to an Airbnb where you kind of want to draw people in, and it's a great way to really create cash flow. There is some long-term strategy with this, because again, you're paying down your mortgage sooner, and it could become like sort of a corporate housing, which could be good, because maybe you could get in with a military base, or maybe get in with a corporate housing provider and say, hey, we rent out rooms by the week, or we rent out it by the month, or whatever it might be. But your goal would be to sort of get long-term tenants in the property that will stay there for forever, right? And when I say forever, I mean a year, 2 years kind of thing. Less turnover, because remember, you're creating sort of an ecosystem with people, and they're living with people, they're getting used to them, and you want to think about that. You want to make sure that it is set up properly, and that everyone is also happy living in the house. And this is why you want to do background checks and make sure that everyone is well qualified to be living there, and that they're clean. Like the other thing too is I would set community guidelines, set community rules, and say, hey, look, if you use a dish, make sure you wash it, right? Like that's a rule. And or maybe you could change it up and say, look, every week we have a cleaner coming by. They're going to clean things and make sure that the house is in great shape, because everyone lives differently, and it's really hard to control how people live. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining a good environment for the other guests and your other tenants in the property. So make sure that you set things up, and maybe you charge people extra every single month, so that they're paying for the cleaner, and it's not necessarily you, but then everyone is benefiting from it. And I feel like people are going to like that more, because then they'll feel like they're well taken care of. They're living in a clean environment, and everyone is expecting the house to be clean at that time. So remember, it is community building, and you want to create a good ecosystem. Make sure there's no drama. Make sure there's no people that are like hating on each other for whatever reason, because I don't know, James over there doesn't wash his dishes and just leaves his dirty dishes in the sink. Make sure that you talk to James and say, hey, look, James, like, can you please like make sure that your dishes are clean? You're violating some of those community guidelines and those community rules. Essentially, you're setting it up like an HOA in a way, but people are signing that on the agreement when they move in, so that they understand, and you go over those rules with them. Make sure that they know what to expect, and you go through those rules with them. Make sure, management is a little bit difficult on this, because you're dealing with multiple people in one house. So again, like having those community rules, having those guidelines are really important. So make sure that people understand what to expect and when to expect it, right? Because you're charging more money. So, you could sort of ask them to be held at a higher standard. And if you maintain that standard, then your house hack or your co-living space will always be filled. And it's a great way to really just cash flow. So definitely look into co-living, look into house hacking. It's a great way to cash flow in a high growth market or in a high interest rate market, because you want to get in and be able to make that money and continue to buy properties, right? Because home prices are just going to increase. Like I said in another video, it went up by 8.1% across the Mid-Atlantic region last year. And last year was a slow year in real estate. So, think about that. This year, I'm expecting it to probably be in the 10, 12% 10 or 12% increase in value in 2024. So, make sure that you guys are looking at opportunities. You could even do the burst strategy with a co-living space. You could you could do multiple strategies with this, where you do a cash out refinance or even a DSCR loan, cash out refinance, for someone that does short term rental loans. So there are lenders out there that do this. So definitely do your research. Shoot us a DM. We'd be happy to help out. Anyways, hit the subscribe button below, like, follow, comment. I'll see you guys on our next video. Peace out.